It's the nighttime showdown slate. It's pre-lock. It's Chief. It's Tim, aka Tasteful Tides, and we are coming at you guys here right after 7:40. We're going to try to bring this thing up to lock. I was talking to Tim pre-show, and sounds like he had a fantastic day. I had an let's call it an okay day. I got close, but not close enough. And so we're here now to talk about the showdown slate, and I'm actually pretty excited about this one because it does feel like it could be gross. So a lot of times on these gross slates, we get to do some different things that maybe the field isn't doing. So Tim, I'm going to shut up and let you have the floor here. Talk about your day, and then we'll get started with this showdown slate.
Yeah, I had a really good day. I ended up shipping the 444 single entry and one of the $100 spies, and I got second in another $100 spy. Then I won all my cash games. I won some other stuff too, so I ended up winning about 40,000. So it was a really solid Sunday. I'm hoping to keep the momentum going for this showdown slate.
Absolutely. Quick question, Tim, if it's not too personal. Is there a Mrs. Tasteful Tides?
There is. There is, definitely.
Oh, well, great. She's going to be having a great Sunday.
She doesn't even know. She doesn't even know. Well, I don't like to tell her. I don't like to tell her till the end of the year.
I understand. Listen, I've got my wedding coming up actually. And so, Mrs. Chief, I just try to let her know when, I have a good couple. I was like, I just tell her, hey, had a good couple days, we'll take care of a few more wedding items, which, we're about almost a month out now. So, but yeah, tell her at the end of the year, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's hop in the showdown slate. I did put out my early showdown short, and Tim, just in terms of this particular slate, kind of what are your thoughts in terms of your approach? Like I said, this slate feels. When I say it feels gross, there are a couple guys where where the production is going to come from, but then outside of that, it feels like a crapshoot on paper. So kind of what's your thoughts and what's your approach for this slate in particular, and kind of how you're thinking about crafting lineups?
Yeah, so it's definitely, I get what you're saying, where it definitely feels kind of like a gross slate. And I also agree that it feels a little bit like a crapshoot because we have a really, really tight spread. We have, in my opinion, two quarterbacks that are below average. So they don't make me feel very comfortable about rostering them. So that's kind of atypical to have two quarterbacks on a slate that feel pretty bad. So right now I'm just looking at projected ownership, and I'm trying to like cross some guys off. That's typically what I like to do because I'm more of like a single entry 3 max type player. Yeah. So, right off the top, I'm looking at DraftKings ownership. I'm seeing Devontae is number 1, Josh Jacobs is number 2, and that's completely fine. Obviously, like they're great plays, but I have to start making cuts on guys that I think I don't have a lot of interest in. I'm a little bit, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Jimmy G? Like if you were playing 1 to 3, I don't think you have to have him. Like I just don't like. This Pittsburgh is so bad defending the rush, and it's like I know where Jimmy's going to be throwing the ball if he does throw, so I'd rather have exposures to his wide receivers or just play Josh Jacobs. Like I feel comfortable fading 50% on Jimmy G. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, see, and that's why I'm glad you brought that up. That's similar to my approach here. And I'll just say this: when I put up my showdown short video today, just kind of a precursor to the show, for me, the guys that I felt like I needed to have were 2 skill position players. Like I didn't feel like I needed either of the quarterbacks. Now, if they end up throwing touchdowns, then obviously we we will need one of them. I don't mind getting rid of Jimmy G, because I feel like Devontae and Myers could still go off, and Jimmy G could throw for, let's say, reasonably, Tim, somewhere between 180 and 215. I know it seems like a wide enough range, but I'm saying that's low enough to where if he throws one touchdown, I don't think he's optimal at the end of the day. And that's really what I'm getting at. So, and if he does that, then most likely Jacoby Myers and Devontae have soaked up all the targets and yards anyway. And so I'm on board with that. I don't mind fading Jimmy G in this spot. I'm probably going to be, in terms of a position, I'm probably going to be a little bit more overweight on kickers in this game than usual, because I just feel like the Pittsburgh defense is still good enough to hold them in the red zone. And I feel the same way about the Pittsburgh offense. I don't think they're explosive enough to run it up on the Raiders. And so, and these are actually two pretty good kickers here, Boswell and Carlson. Those guys typically their coaches are going to let them kick anyway. So it's kind of like this weird. I expect production. I don't expect as many touchdowns as I think I will.
Do we lose Chief? Yeah, so I think what Chief was saying is, like, I think he's anticipating this being a fairly low-scoring game, which I don't disagree with. I think it's pretty much only a 43, 44-point total, so I don't really have a problem with that. I think that going double kicker is a viable strategy. I don't know. I think they're going to show some ownership. Like Chris Boswell is going to be about 17%. Carlson's going to be about 19%. So I think that's low enough where you could go double kicker. I do want to bring up our sim tool real quick, see if they're showing any kind of positive or negative leverage. Right now, we have a little bit of positive leverage with Carlson, so I think that's a strong play for tournaments. And I think that, I think you could go double kicker. So yeah, Steve, do we got Chief back yet?
I am back.
Oh, there he is.
Tim, listen, shame on me. So here's what I've discovered with Tequila Mike says Chiefs hamster fell off the wheel. That's incredible. Here's something that's very interesting. So I'm hardwired in to my computer all the time because we have to do these shows. But my internet gets spotty randomly, and I don't ever know what's going to be. So during these shows, I actually disconnect from my internet and I run off of my hotspot with Verizon. And that's typically how I end up not having any spotty coverage or drop off. And I forgot to do that. So sorry, folks, that's on me for not switching to my other internet to run the show. But yeah, where did you kind of finish up your thoughts?
I was just talking about your strategy about going double kicker. I was looking at our sim tool in terms of positive and negative leverage. So I think that they're pretty strong plays, and they're not going to be owned, I think, super highly. So I think you could go double kicker, and it's a fairly low total. And you're right, like these teams will be kicking field goals, so I don't really hate that at all.
Yeah. Let's talk about some captain strategy. I'm just going to tell you, I'm very aggressive at captain tonight, Tim. Like more aggressive than probably I am ever. I've got 4 different captains. That's it. I've pretty much X'd out everyone except Devontae, Josh Jacobs, Pickens, and Myers. That's it. I'm not playing the quarterbacks. I'm not playing Najee. I'm not playing Jalen Warren and all these Fringe. I've just completely got rid of everybody. I'm going with these 4 guys because I feel like if anyone has any type of explosive performance, it's one of those 4. That's what I'm doing tonight. What are you thinking? I don't feel like you said, the quarterbacks aren't good enough. The other skill position players I don't think are good enough. Those are the only four I'm playing the captain on DraftKings. What's kind of your captain strategy tonight?
I definitely don't mind going top heavy at captain. I really like Devontae Adams. I think he's going to be a little bit over-owned in the captain spot. So I think Josh Jacobs is my favorite overall captain. That's probably where I'm going to go in single entry tonight. I also really, really love Jacoby Myers at captain. Just because everyone's going to be filtering to Devontae or Josh Jacobs or Pickens. And I think that's going to leave Myers very low owned in the captain spot. We saw in week one, Devontae Adams and Myers dominated the target share. If Myers is the one that ends up finding the end zone, he could very well be the optimal captain. It would not surprise me in the least. So I love him for larger field stuff. The only other person that I might add, I have no issue with you not going with either quarterback, but the only other person I might consider adding is Jaylen Warren. I think that eventually he's going to kind of steal the spot from Najee. I also think that Oakland's going to be playing with the lead, and they're going to need to be doing dump offs to Warren. So I really don't mind getting to some Warren a little bit, at least if I'm making 20 teams or so. I would definitely sprinkle in a little bit of Warren, just because I think he can get there with receiving yards and break a run, find the end zone, and I think he could end up being the optimal captain as well.
Okay, so this is where it's going to get interesting, Tim, and I actually love this because I'm actually in the same boat with you as Warren, for what it's worth.
Yeah,
which is why, honestly, Tim, I might be comfortable completely fading Najee if I wasn't not going to fade the quarterbacks. Seriously, I would probably be close. But here's what I will say. For me, I'm probably going to lock Warren in the flex. I think I'm just going to go 100% Warren in the flex, and everybody else at cap. And if he burns me, I'll live with that. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like today I'm getting very, very aggressive. So I've got Warren locked, and then only those four at captain. So we've got a similar idea. We're just approaching it differently. I'm just playing a little bit more aggressive because I'm playing more large field. So that's really how I'm landing. What are your thoughts on a full Najee fade, even though we're not thrilled about the quarterbacks? I'll say this. I think my only caution for a full Najee fade is, God, if he just happens to fall in the end zone or something, he will get enough volume to pick up 10 to 12 fantasy points, I think, if he falls in the end zone. Outside of that, I don't think he burns us at all. I don't mind faded Najee. He's 30%. It's not going to feel good, but he hasn't been great anyway, and Warren's definitely cutting into his workload.
I have no issue fading Najee. He's going to be 30% owned. We haven't projected for 10 points at 8.8K. It's just not a play for me at all. Like I said, I like the Raiders to win this game. I think I'm trying to build a team with a 5-1 Oakland with just a Warren one-off. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. I'm completely fine. I think Harris gets kind of scripted out of this game. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Like you said, he gets enough volume where he could get you 15, 16 points, but he's got to fall into the end zone, which is there's no guarantee. There's a lot of variance with touchdowns. Yeah. But it's not a play for me. I like the fade of Najee.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I am, and really, Tim, I've kind of been that way all season because even coming out of training camp, they were talking about the fact that Warren was going to have a role, and I think we're seeing that role continue to expand game to game to game. I don't hate that call at all. In terms of, I know you mentioned kind of building 5-1. Are there any, in terms of general guys, any plays that are kind of, let's call them fringe, but even in a 3-entry max, single entry that you would consider putting in? It looks like to me Calvin Austin is Fringe, but it looks like he's going to be garnering some ownership, around 17%. And then Allen Robinson is involved. He's around 17% as well. How do you kind of feel about some of those Fringe guys that don't have the lead role, but it looks like we have a marginal projection on?
Well, you named the guy that I was going to name, and I guess he's not too fringy. It would be Calvin Austin as like my preferred like value play. If you're playing like single entry, you want to be a little bit, risk averse. I think Calvin Austin is probably your guy. I think he's a better play than Allen Robinson. And Allen Robinson is $800 more. The question becomes really, is it Calvin Austin or is it one of the kickers, right? Because he's kind of in that same, he's kind of right in that same price point. So, honestly, I'm kind of leaning the kickers. But if you want to build for more upside, which you should be doing in like a large field GPP, I think that you should go with Calvin Austin. Yeah,
definitely. He could. I don't want to call it luck box, Tim, but we saw George Pickens pretty much take a slant to the house the other day. Like, if Calvin Austin does something like that, he's optimal, like immediately. Any type of 40, 50-yard touchdown from him, you better have him in your lineups if you want to take it down. So I agree with you there. Once again, I will say I'm probably a lot heavier on the kickers. Let's kind of talk through defenses here, because a lot of times, Tim, I'm more of an X button guy on defenses. I just kind of get rid of them in Showdown because I feel like they're going to hurt me more than they help me long term. But I am a little fluid on those. I still don't really want to play these defenses, but I will say the Raiders at 4K give me a little bit of pause. Any type of defensive touchdown, or if the Steelers struggle to get points in the end zone, get points today, and they pick up a few sacks, then we're going to be in an interesting spot here at 4K, and we can't count on teams to get shut out. That's not what I'm saying. But if the Steelers are limited at all offensively, the Raiders at 4K do give me a little bit of intrigue. How are you feeling about defenses overall?
Yeah, just to be transparent to everybody, like when I build my 1 to 3 lineups, I never play defense.
Yeah, me either.
And of course, that can end up burning me, right? Like that could end up being a horrible play. They just lose points so quickly. As much as I don't respect these quarterbacks, I also not too concerned about like huge amounts of turnovers. Like there's enough skill players on this team where I'm not expecting a lot of turnovers on either side. So obviously that can burn me. But this whole kind of price range where these defenses are, and like I don't know, like there's so many other plays I'd rather play. I think the Steelers at 5.6K are way too expensive. I'm not interested in that at all. I don't care that they're only going to be 13% owned. We only have them projected for 6 points. Like that for me, it's just like I'm all set. Like that's an easy pass for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I am not going to be playing the Steelers.
I mean, yeah, like the Raiders, I guess I could get behind because of the price. They're playing at home. Maybe they have a defensive touchdown in them. I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet that Chris Boswell outscores them. I'd be willing to bet absolutely. Daniel Carlson outscores them. Calvin Austin outscores them. Possibly even Hunter Renfrow. So they fall very far down. If I'm building out 150, maybe I just match the field at 12%. But I don't like playing defenses.
You know what? The more I think about this, the more I'm starting to like Jimmy G. And I hate the backtrack.
What?
No. Let me talk through it. So
talk through it.
We saw Jimmy G in week 1. They're playing Denver, and obviously we've seen that Denver's going to give up points. Like Denver's giving up points to everybody this season so far, Tim. We saw what Miami did today. We saw what Washington was able to do last week. and we saw the Raiders put up a few points. Here's my thing with Jimmy G, and I need to probably make some swaps here while I'm live. I like his skill position players so much. If they go, I'm not playing him in the captain, but I think in the flex I'm going to get a little bit of exposure here, and the reason why I think Jacoby Myers coming back helps make this offense way better than it was last week. And so if Jimmy, he's 10-2. If he throws 2 touchdowns, as an example, I've already got Warren locked in the flex, by the way, and I think I mentioned that. But if he throws 2 touchdowns, then now we're saying, okay, he's getting much closer to being optimal because his position players have kind of gone off here, and he's been able to contribute to that. So like right now, and this is my single entry build. I'll just kind of talk through like these 3 pieces. I've got Jacoby Myers in the captain. I'm gonna get, like I said, a little bit aggressive, and I've got Warren. I've got Jimmy G in the flex and one of the kickers. Like that's where I am right now for single entry, and I'm starting to feel like this is the right call. I'm not going to have as much of the field in large field for what it's worth. I'm not going to have nearly as much of the field, but in single entry here, where I know he's still going to get that ownership, I think I'm starting to like this a ton. I think the only way I get off of Jimmy G is like what we talked about. If I ran Devontae, like if I ran Myers captain Devontae and left Jimmy G off, that's how I get rid of him, I think, from here on out.
So how many wide receivers are you going to be playing with Jimmy G at captain?
No. I've got Jacoby Myers at captain.
Oh, okay.
I've got Myers at captain. I'll just tell you, I've got Myers, Jimmy G, and Devontae.
Okay.
So Myers at captain, Jimmy G, Devontae, and I've got Warren locked in the flex. So it's like, man, the more we were kind of talking through, like I said, this game's gross, but I do know on Oakland, all of the production is coming from one of these 3. It's either going to be Myers, Adams, or Josh Jacobs. That's the production. And so I think in this particular build, what I'm saying is the passing game gets there and Jacobs doesn't. Let me just say that. So I think that's why I'm building it this way. Any lineups where I have Jacobs, I don't want Jimmy G in there. Personally.
Right.
Yeah. And
I think that makes sense. I love Josh Jacobs today. You know, the Steelers have given up the most rush yards than any other team, but it's only 2 games though, right? It's small sample. So there could be a lot of noise there. But I really love the Raiders ground game today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, I think the Raiders really dominate this game, really dominate possession. So yeah, that's why Showdown's fun. People can have different takes on the same game, and that's why we have so much Showdown action. I think Josh Jacobs is still my favorite captain, but I mean we got to find some cheapies that we really like. It's hard because the slate seems very, very top heavy. The only guy in the mid range that I really like is Jaylen Warren, but other than that, it's like the kickers. Maybe Austin, but is there anybody like below 3K that is hitting your builds?
Yeah, good. And this is where we're going to get it from. For me, it's tight end, and it's Austin Hooper.
Yeah, I love that call.
He's 2,400. I'm not saying he's going to get 20 targets, but I think he'll get enough. The thing about tight ends is all tight ends have a shot to catch a touchdown. Not the number one guy. We see this all the time with Kansas City and Miami and all of these teams. The Patriots, the second tight end always has a shot at 2 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. And so for me, that's – and Hooper, when we got him at 10%. And the interesting thing is his projection isn't that far off from, Calvin Austin. We got Austin at 8.4. We've got Allen Robinson at 7.6. and he's projected for 17%. Like, he's not that far off for the discount we're getting. So I like Hooper a great deal at these ownership levels.
Yeah, I do too. I think that was a really, I like him more than Hunter Renfrow. And I think you're going to see them being similar ownership.
Yeah, for sure. Because Hunter Renfrow, he's 3K. He's barely had any targets already, and now we got Myers coming back, and he's projected for 10% ownership. And I think it's just the name value and knowing he's going to be out there to run a couple routes that is going to push that ownership. But his projection isn't as good as Hooper's.
Right.
So yeah, I like that a ton.
We got a question in the YouTube chat. Would you rather take Hooper or a kicker Raiders defense?
Okay, if I'm taking them straight up, I'm probably taking a kicker over the defense. I'm probably taking Hooper over one of the kickers because the touchdown equity is always going to override the kickers for me. Like, if he catches a touchdown in 3 catches, like, that's already 9 points plus his yards. He's probably already hitting 10 or 11. I will say my case for the kickers are both of these guys are good 40 to 50 yards out. Like, that's really what it is. Both of these guys, if they hit multiple 40-yarders and a couple extra points, like, they're pushing 10 points. So, but Hooper on top for me, then the kickers, then the defense.
Yeah, so I think the kickers are the safer plays, but I think if you're building for a ceiling, which you should be doing in a large field setting, it's Hooper. Andrew asks, who's the captain play tonight? For me, it's Josh Jacobs, but I think Chief and I both like Jacoby Myers quite a bit. But for me, my favorite is Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I think Jacobs is for sure the single entry cash game captain in my opinion. If I'm playing anything over 3 entry max, like 20 entry max, I'm going to be well over Jacoby Myers. As you guys know, I only have 4 captains tonight anyway. I'm pretty heavy Jacoby Myers, probably by about, I'm 20% higher than the field on Myers for what it's worth. 20%. Yeah.
We got a FanDuel question. FanDuel single entry favorite MVP. Let me just go right over to FanDuel.
I think that's Jacobs 100%.
I do too.
I think that's Jacobs. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. FanDuel. Yeah. Heavy Jacobs. Heavy Jacobs. That was what, Big Hurt? Yeah. So yeah, I think that wraps up, most of the nuts and bolts of this particular slate, just because, like I said, I do think it's pretty straightforward. And I see we got Andrew here saying, are you guys fading both quarterbacks or at least having one in the flex? I did come around to have a little bit more Jimmy G than I anticipated, Andrew. We were considering the full fade. I'm probably more in the full fade of Najee than Jimmy G. So if you're building on DraftKings, you may be able to get away with not having a quarterback, especially if you've got one of the big wide receivers or Josh Jacobs in the captain. You could probably have Warren and not Pickett, George Pickens, and I think you can build without the quarterback. Me personally, in single entry, because I'm playing Jacoby Myers captain, I am going to play Jimmy G because I also want Devontae for what it's worth.
Right. So Eric wants to know, what are your thoughts on Najee captain? I am not on Najee at all. I know Eric likes to be different quite a bit. If that's the way you want to go, that's fine. I'm not even going to roster him in flex spot in my 3 teams. So he's a full fade for me. I don't think he makes for a very good captain.
Yeah, same here, Tim. I'm not playing Najee anywhere near a captain spot. I'm borderline hit the X button on the flex. So he says Najee will have 2 TDs today. Eric, I hope you're not drunk right now during this show.
I hope you're betting that on a prop site somewhere because you could probably get paid really well. So
yeah, I mean that's Tim, I would say for him to get 2+, he's got to be somewhere near plus 24, 2,500. What do you say?
I don't know. Eric claims that he is, and he is betting it, and he's not drunk yet. So,
Eric, what are the odds on that? What are the odds on Najee for 2+ TDs or 2 TDs? What are those odds? I'd be interested to see. Let's see how in tune I am with the sports book. Hopefully he'll throw it in the chat here. He says, "I don't care. I love Harris." Well, I still would like to know the odds though. that you got it at.
I'm gonna see if I can look it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Any interest in any of these guys under 1,000, Chief? Like any of these guys, like Amir Abdullah at $200.
Oh man.
Like, he catches one screen pass for, 20, 30 yards, gets you 4 points. Is that going to be enough? Do we need him? Do we need guys like that? Are you getting to any of guys like that in any of your builds?
No. I don't think we need him. Like, listen, man, like Quadri Allison, Godwin Agubike, like I just X those guys out today, just because I don't see that. So for me, Tim, and I think this is good too for certain sites. So like the previous showdown slates on Sundays that I was on, I absolutely had exposure to some of these guys. Like I was on Kavontae Turpin that night, right? Because he's already he's involved. He's going, he's got a shot to run some kicks back. He's going to get a couple of targets on offense. They drop these gadget plays for him. So he's involved a little bit more consistently. These other guys, like they're just fairly non-existent unless someone gets hurt. And Tim, maybe let's Najee 2 TDs is plus 1,000. Okay, so I was way off. But yeah, still the right play to play it on the sportsbook. Tim, I don't like to build for guys to get hurt. But to me, that's where these random guys come in. Like if Josh Jacobs goes down, right? Then now that's when, a Zamir White or Abdullah, I think, or, are going to become more in play. But in that lineup, you better not have Josh Jacobs. So that's about the only way I like to build with those guys that virtually have no role outside of taking up bench space.
Yeah, so another guy I'll just quickly mention who's dirt cheap is Michael Mayer. We have him projected for 2.5 targets, 1.5 receptions, 12 receiving yards. If that happens to be, he happens to fall into the end zone with that target, I think he would make for a really good play if you're building out, say, 20 teams or more. I think he would be worth taking a shot on.
Absolutely, and that's the backup tight end. As we've talked about, any tight end on any offense has a shot at a touchdown as they get into the red zone. And we've seen it time and time again. So love that call. I don't see any more. You said Chief. Okay.
Yeah. So FanDuel GPP large field favorite MVP. Big Hurt's got one bullet. Chief, favorite MVP.
I'm probably going to go Jacobs. Like on FanDuel, I think the value on Jacobs it's a lot different than DraftKings because he's still going to catch a couple passes, but the touchdown equity and the rushing yard equity, it's enormous on FanDuel.
Yeah, so I completely agree, Josh Jacobs. But if you want to get really, really crazy and like a low dollar, you want to try to win all the dollars. I would go maybe Kenny Pickett just to get off some ownership and just to do something different. But yeah, Jacobs is the better play though. Is playing Andrew wants to know, playing Adams, Jacobs, and Myers too many in a lineup? My vote is no. I love that if you can do it. I love that if you can do it.
Well, that's all the production. If I think you can do it. But Andrew, can you give me the site on that though? Give me FanDuel or DraftKings. I just kind of want to get an idea. if you can.
Eric wants to know thoughts on Renfro. He's fine, Eric. I prefer Hooper though in that price range, or going up to a kicker. And I don't think you're getting that much of an ownership difference. So I prefer going down to Hooper over Renfro.
Yeah, I like that call. Let me say this. I've got my same build without Jimmy G, with Josh Jacobs in. So I've got Myers, Jacobs, and Adams. And I can still fit in everything. Like literally everything. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, he's Andrew's fading both QBs. So he's got Adams, Jacobs, Myers, and fading both QBs. Honestly, I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't know. There's a good chance that one of the QBs will be optimal, but I think if there's ever a slate to fade both QBs, this would be it.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric said thoughts on Austin. I think we touched on Austin, though. A good deal is one of our kind of fringe wide receivers that we probably want to get in there for an okay price. Let's see. We got about 2 minutes to lock. I don't see any more questions. I will stall a bit here, Tim, just to see if we get any others. I don't want to cut any off. Kenny TT plus over 34. Yep. Oh, okay. All right, I guess J3 is talking about the sports book there. I don't see any other random plays. I think once again for me, I think my strategy is only those top 4 skill position players in the captain. That's my large field strategy. Only those 4. So I'm well overweight on all 4 versus the field. No quarterbacks in the captain tonight. I've got Jaylen Warren locked in the flex because I think he's kind of the guy that's going to get there and you're going to need at 6,200. And then from there, I'm mixing and matching skill positions in quarterbacks, and I'm well overweight on the kickers tonight. That's my overall strategy for this slate. Top 4 skill position players, locking in Warren, overweight on the kickers.
Yeah, I really like that, Chief. I think you're going about it the right way. I agree with that kind of mindset, that kind of build. So yeah, I like that quite a bit. Jacobs is my favorite captain MVP. Yeah. I love Warren in the flex. I think if you want to get really, really contrarian in the captain spot, I think you could play Warren because I think this is going to be a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of dump offs tonight. So I love Warren. I love Warren's receiving props too, if you have access to a sports book. I think it was like 17.5 receiving yards at one point. I really like that. So 2v2 Pickett, Carlson, or Myers and Austin in a single entry. Both really good choices. I think I would go Myers, Austin.
Yeah, I like that call. I like that because it's stable enough and different enough to get you to the top.
Yep.
Love that call. All right, folks. Well, listen, we've hit lock. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Showdown Pre-Lock Show. I'm Chief. That's Tim. Congrats, Tim, on the big day. And we will see you guys again next Sunday.